Hello, welcome to another Purple Insider Extra inside TCO Performance Center. Again, a little too windy for the video today outside. Matthew Coller along with Sam Ekstrom here. We just walked off the practice field and there were several very notable health issues to address. Let's start with the fact that Justin Jefferson actually did some stuff today. He didn't do a lot, but Jefferson took at least one 11-on-11 rep and at least one 7-on-7 rep, Sam. And I think that tells us that Justin Jefferson is on track to make his way back on the timeline that they originally sort of laid out, that this would not be a serious injury with his AC joint.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world that they didn't want to put him up against the Denver Broncos and join practices, and they get him back basically after 1 week. He participated immediately in some team drills. I don't know if he plays on Saturday, but I think that's okay. They don't need him to play. They just need him to be healthy. And it looks like he's right on track. And the tweets by Rappaport and Schefter appear to be accurate. Justin Jefferson is going to be okay.
Right. I don't think that he'll play maybe at all during this preseason, and that's fine. I mean, we saw him not play at all during last preseason. I think the same thing for the starters. We saw a very hard practice today for the Vikings. There was a lot of the scrimmaging that Mike Zimmer mentioned, a lot of situational stuff. But I don't know how much that impacts whether we'll see the starters or not. We saw Kirk Cousins make a lot of throws today. Adam Thielen made some great catches. And I think that you have to be very concerned about what the backups did the other day. And if you throw out your starters, think about this. Cam Smith got hurt. Kenny Nwangwu got hurt the other day on Saturday against the Broncos. You don't want that from your starters. So I think at best we might see a series or two next Saturday, but I'm not sure. Sticking with the health theme, though, we did see D.D. Westbrook doing a little on a side field. So again, no idea when he's coming back, but at least making some progress. Anthony Barr not practicing today, Sam. That's made quite a few veteran days for Anthony Barr, to the point where he's starting to think, I'm not sure those are veteran days. I wonder how he's returning from his shoulder injury last year.
Yeah, I think that's 4 or 5 practices out of the last 8 or so that he's missed. And he does keep coming back and participating to sort of alleviate concerns. And then he's gone again. And when asked about it, Mike Zimmer didn't say it was a vet day. He said, I'm taking care of him. That's a different response. If it was nothing, I think he would have said it was nothing, which tells me that it's a little something. And I know you got to be cautious with him. They've been cautious with a lot of their veterans coming back from injury. Anthony Barr is among them. But you would expect him to be a full go at this point. Danielle Hunter certainly is. Michael Pierce is getting there. But Anthony Barr seems to be taking a little step back. So what happened to Barr, we don't know exactly. We may not get a good indication until injury report in week 1, if it lasts until then. But Barr was among 11 Vikings that were not participating today. Some of those we knew about already, like Westbrook and Darisaw, but some other surprises as well, like Miles Dorn and Troy Dye. Again, these are guys that are competing to be key backups on this team, not in practice. We're not sure of the nature of their injuries. But again, Saturday's result against Denver is proof why they probably need to do it again and try that again with these guys and get them more reps. I would not expect a dress rehearsal-like game in this preseason. I think the Vikings have so many young players they're counting on that they're going to give them the reps as priority.
Now, Christian Darisaw was back in the building today, but he was not in pads, standing on the side as he recovers from the groin procedure. The timeline for him is supposed to be that he would be ready to go for week 1 if they needed him to play in some scenario, but it's very hard to see him starting after having a procedure. We saw Rashad Hill take most of the 11-on-11 reps today, but Blake Brandel also mixed in at left tackle, which tells you that the injury that was suffered at the end of practice against Denver from Rashad Hill at least is bothering him, but not enough to keep him out of practice today. Now, the Vikings on special teams, we had hyped up the kicker battle, and we thought, oh, this is going to be this every day. Did Riley Patterson make them? Did Greg Joseph make them? The Vikings cut Riley Patterson today, and Greg Joseph made both of his field goals, one from 43, one from 45. Sam, do you think that there's another kicker who will be coming in here last minute, or is this just Greg Joseph's job?
It's hard for me to believe that this is it, that this is all they're going to do for a competition, because clearly they wanted a competition, and they never really got it, because Riley Patterson couldn't really do much in OTAs, and apparently whatever's ailing him popped back up and caused him to be waived with an injury designation. So we really only saw 4 or 5 practices with Riley Patterson. The competition never formulated. Do they bring someone else in at this stage? I don't know. I don't know if it's now or if maybe it's after someone gets cut before the season. That might make a little more sense. You don't want to bring someone in just for the sake of it if they're not worthy of it and mess with Greg Joseph's head. I think they probably ride with Joseph, see if he makes his preseason kicks, and if he does, then they'll go with him in week 1. But if not, then I think you watch that waiver wire.
Right. You could very much see something happening where someone gets let go by another team, sort of like with the Dan Bailey. Somebody loses a kicking competition, and then all of a sudden they end up here. There's a couple of different kickers around the league I've already seen that have been rumored could possibly be cut by their teams for younger kickers, so I guess we keep an eye on that one. Now, as we go forward here, Sam, we're going to be keeping an eye continually on the receiver battles and on the offensive line battles, but it seems like a lot of it is resolved. And Oli Udoh took all of the first team reps today. Dakota Dozier didn't take any of them. Also, KJ Osborne was taking all the wide receiver 3 reps today, or wide receiver 2, with Justin Jefferson being limited. And I think that we can sort of call some of these battles. Chad Beebe was not practicing today, by the way, so that might have played into it. But I think KJ Osborne is wide receiver 3, if not wide receiver 3/4. And Oli Udoh appears to have won the guard position. So I think initially we felt like, well, maybe they're trying to see if there's something there from somebody that doesn't have a position or a route to start with 2 established tackles. But now it seems like with Dakota Dozier's play on Saturday and Oli Udoh's play in practice, that one is over.
And now I think the question is for Dozier, can he hang on to the number 2 job? Like Wyatt Davis wasn't great in pass protection on Saturday, has a lot of work to do, but did have some good reps in the run game. He talked to us after practice, and he thinks he's making some positive strides. We did, though, Matthew, in the early press conferences, hear about a competition that hadn't really been confirmed to us, but Andre Patterson said Stephen Weatherly is battling for his job against DJ Wanham. That's why both of them played in the game on Saturday. I didn't think either of them did particularly well. There were no hits, pressures, sacks at all in their time on the field. But we've suspected maybe that Wanham would take over that job at some point. It hasn't been said in that way to us. So DJ Wanham, I would assume rising up the ranks in the coach's eyes if he's in that mix. And we'll see how that goes as well.
I think the defensive line is probably the only thing to still be resolved. We had Jalen Holmes play a couple of different positions the other day. We saw Janarius Robinson and Patrick Jones both look pretty good. When you looked back at the Pro Football Focus grades, which are certainly not everything, but Janarius Robinson graded pretty well. A couple of missed tackles hurt Patrick Jones, but he also had a couple of tackles for loss. And if you are them looking at those guys playing pretty well and saying, well, Stephen Weatherly, you've got to rise to the challenge here in these last couple of games, they didn't sign Stephen Weatherly for a whole lot. And I know when they signed him, the day that they signed him, you sort of questioned the signing and said, look, I mean, the guy had 0 sacks in 9 games last year for Carolina. If you're bringing him back for a depth role, then that's okay. But if you're bringing him back to start, that's not really what you're looking for. And this sort of goes back to being surprised that there wasn't at least one more signing along the defensive line. And now, as you look around, and this goes for linebacker too, as you look around, you go, well, there isn't really anybody to pick up at this point. There isn't anyone to go out in free agency and say, oh, okay, we're going to bring in this guy, and maybe there's a surprise cut around the league and they give someone else a job. But I saw Brian Robinson at the stadium the other day and thought, he might be better than what they have right now still. I mean, that position across from Danielle Hunter remains unsolved as we go into the final 2 preseason games. And when we talk about whether some things were foreseeable or not, I mean, on the day that they signed Stephen Weatherly, I think we said this can't be the only signing across from Danielle Hunter. So far it has been, and that position might be something that's rotating throughout the season.
Yeah, it gives DJ Wanham every chance to become that number 2 guy behind Danielle Hunter. And I think the writing was on the wall with Weatherly that, you know, his upside wasn't all that high. And with Wanham, I think the upside is incredibly high. this team just is craving some veterans to step up. And, number one, there aren't that many of them in the depth ranks, really at all. I mean, Nick Vigil is the closest thing to like a veteran depth guy on this team. Mason Cole is a veteran depth guy who hasn't been very good in his past at Arizona. So the depth they do have hasn't had a great track record. They're coming from other systems in many cases. And that's concerning as well. And Weatherly was part of the problem on Saturday with a unit that didn't get much done against Denver. So I think it's a legitimate concern.
All right, hopefully tomorrow it's not as windy outside. We can be back outside shooting our videos. Until then, make sure you check out the Purple Insider podcast. We'll be live streaming every Tuesday morning as well on the Bring Me the News social platforms. PurpleInsider.substack.com is the website. Lots for you folks to check out. So we'll catch you later. Purple Insider.